Why, hello. It's been a long while. Again, hopefully not too long. Um, I just wanted to pop in, make a video again. I will admit, this is gonna be a little bit different compared to my other stuff. Um, it's something that I really wanted to talk about, but never really felt comfortable. I'm still not really comfortable enough to talk about it, but I feel like because of recent events that happened, I feel like now is a really good time to talk about it. A little extra part to kind of get to know me a little bit better, to people who are subscribed to me and follow me and stuff like that. I'm not going to pander too much. I'm just going to go straight into the good bits here. If you follow my Twitter, you probably know what this is going to be about. Last week, no, not last week, a couple weeks now, I think. Yes, sorry, time is just, what's time, you know? Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, I was on a call with my dad. I call my dad usually weekly. We just update each other about, what's going on. Like, hey, how are you doing? I'm doing good. How are you doing in Florida? Oh, yeah, okay, great, cool. But a couple weeks ago was a little bit different, and it really surprised me and it was really great, and which led me to wanting to make this video, telling my dad about, like, oh, like, I'm doing really great, like, professional wise, like, with my art, like, people I do art for and all this kind of stuff, and he was just like, oh, like, I'm so proud of you, blah, 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 and I was just like, haha, yeah, Before, we ended the call, my dad specifically told me, he's like, hey, I'm really proud of you, son. This was different than usual because, he's never called me his son before, like, at least in a serious tone. Like sometimes he'll say it, I feel like in a joking way, like not really taking it seriously in front of other people and stuff. But this was the first time that he actually told me that in a very serious tone, and it didn't really hit me immediately when he said it because I was in a public place, specifically in a cafe, and I was just like, oh, okay, haha, bye, I love you. And then when I hung up, and like I think like 2 hours later, I was just like, oh, wait a minute. Oh my gosh. To those who surprisingly still don't know, I've been identifying as a trans man for about 4 years now. It'll hit 4 years by fall. So basically, whatever, four years. And I've been on hormones for about 3 years now, since this year, January. So, I've been kind of living as myself for a pretty long time now, I feel. That's a pretty long time. But to simplify everything, that meant so much to me. And it led me to wanting to make this video because I kind of want to talk about how I actually did come out to my dad, because he was the only one I came out to. I haven't come out to my mom yet, and that's a whole other story that I had to talk about, because I know a lot of people are like really surprised of how, like, oh, how does your mom not know? And it's a very complicated situation, which, like, I can't even talk about all of it in this video. Like, I literally have to make a whole nother video about it. But hopefully I can maybe do that whenever that gets fixed. I was initially fine when I realized, like, hey, I'm a trans guy, or more trans masks and stuff. I realized early on, I kind of mentally prepare myself for none of my parents accepting me at all, and being okay with that. So I was initially fine with not having either of my parents' approval with my identity, but now that I finally have one, it helps a lot, and I'm trying not to cry. It's okay. So I brought Kermit with me, so every time I feel like I'm about to cry, I'm just gonna stare at him. So it's fine. Right, Kermit? Okay, I know I shouldn't apologize for crying and stuff, but, like, I know this is something very valid to cry about, but I also am, like, a really private person. Talk about my feelings, I'm very introverted with that. I just think it's important for people to know, like, for those who don't realize, that people in the LGBT community have to deal with, and how important it is for someone who you've grown up with, your whole life, to finally support you, despite having pretty much the majority of society wanting to like strip away human rights. So like I said earlier on, this video is going to be how I came out to my dad. I specifically say my dad because I still have not, come out to my mom for personal reasons, and I just don't think it's time right now. And when it does get there, that deserves a whole other video because our relationship was an absolute wreck. But anyways, just a quick background info on my dad. He's the white side of my family. If you don't know, I'm half white, half Asian, specifically Irish, but apparently like I recently took an ancestry and it's like a whole mix of other European stuff. So, but mostly predominantly Irish, and on the Asian side, mostly Chinese. So my dad was born in 1954. He's kind of old. No, I mean not too old. He's kind of old. Grew up around northern Michigan. Grew up as a Roman Catholic. Typical Irish. But despite the, like the time frame that he was born in, which, by the way, 1954, that's when they, I think, just ruled that segregation in schools was unconstitutional. So if you just want to wrap your head around that real quick. But despite him growing up, during times like that, when things were just starting, when they were just starting to think, oh, maybe, separating colored people, quote unquote colored people, and white people is kind of not right. He was a pretty open-minded guy, especially for his time. I feel like, at least how I see him and what he's told me, I feel like he's pretty open-minded with many things. He's expressed to me how he felt like genders and sexual orientation, of how not being like strict to just being, like gay or straight, like there's like a spectrum going on, and he's felt the same exact way with genders too. And that always made me really happy to hear, because that's something like, especially he's like, I think what, like 60, turning 63, 64? I don't know math. But yeah, for baby boomer, that's pretty advanced thinking. I also always have had a closer relationship with my dad. When things would get really hectic with my mom, he would be the one to, be at my defense a lot, and he protected me a lot as well. So I felt if I was going to come out to either of my parents, he was going to be the first to know. And I knew for a fact that he would never get upset at me, and like, or he would kick me out or anything like that. Like, I was kind of expecting like disapproval, and that's kind of what I got at first, but it wasn't that bad. I don't know how to, sorry, I'm just like stuttering all over the place. So it started during the year of 2015. I started going into therapy because in the state of Florida, you need to see a therapist to have like an official diagnosis of having gender dysphoria and stuff like that. So they have to write the approved letter and then send it to whoever you're seeing to get HRT, hormone replacement therapy. And that's like a whole process. That's roughly, I think, to get all that done, if there was no delays, like 4 to 6 months, maybe. And that's pretty generous. That's pretty generous time frame. After going through a couple sessions of therapy, of course my dad was curious as to why I was going to therapy. I told him at first it was because I felt really depressed. I wasn't lying to him. I definitely did feel really depressed for many things going on in my life at the time. I wasn't telling him the full truth either, but at that point, I wasn't really ready to tell him yet. I remember I specifically told him, like, hey, I'm also going to therapy for another reason, but I'm not really comfortable enough to tell you about that yet. And he was, of course, super worried, because his first assumption when your kid says they're going to therapy for depression, but then they also have other reasons that they can't tell you, it kind of sends up a lot of red flags. So I can totally see why it came off like that to him. And I believe it was either a few weeks or maybe possibly like a few months after I told him that, I decided that us going to our local grocery store in the produce aisle and spontaneously telling him was like the greatest idea. I remember I was pushing the cart. I had like both my elbows up on the handle, like towards my chin, and I was, just pushing it, hunching over, and it was just like, hey dad, I'll tell you the real reason why I'm going to therapy. I just straight out say it, and I like suddenly cry while I was also saying, it was like, I'm a trans guy. And by the way, this was in the produce section of our local grocery store. Thank God there wasn't like that much people. If I remember, that was in there. I was kind of like, we were in like some like secluded area of it, and I was just like, "Ooh, I'm so trans guy." And this is the funny part of when I came out to him there, was I tell my dad that I'm a trans guy, right? And the first thing he asked me after I tell him that is, "So does this mean that you like girls?" I stopped the cart. I'm like, "Wait, what?" And then I have to like explain to him of how like this has nothing to do with my sexuality, and we kind of just ended it there for now. Like it was just kind of awkward. Apparently, it's common for parents to immediately assume that being trans has to have some relation in your sexuality, and I never thought too much about it until it actually happened. So it was weird. It wasn't uncomfortable, but I knew my dad didn't get it, and I wasn't expecting him to either. But things did start getting a little bit more intense when I started to pursue like the actual hormone replacement therapy. My dad had the misconception. My dad had the misconception that I'm going to become like this drug addict or something, right? That I was like, oh, I'm just gonna like be aggressive, become a drug addict, because I mean, testosterone is a type of steroid. I don't know if people know that, but it is. And like, yeah, it's a type of steroid, but like, oh my God, how do I? So I don't know how, the rest of the states regulate testosterone, but in Florida, it was so hard to get it. And it's with constant, like almost constant medical supervision that I've had while I was on it and if I was to continue like wanting to receive it. And I told my dad this too. I was explaining to him. I was like, yeah, testosterone is a type of steroid, but I told him it is also a controlled substance, and that the only way I can get it and me continuing to receive it is with medical supervision and monthly blood tests. And if I don't if I don't show up to the blood tests and they don't get, they don't find out what my results are and stuff, they're going to just cut off prescribing my testosterone. Like, that's just how it works. But he was super insistent. He was telling me, he was like, I've had a friend hooked on steroids, and he changed and messed him up. And I'm like, Dad, that's your friend, and he possibly could have taken steroids with something else going on. He took steroids for athletic performance. Highly doubt that it was even medically supervised. Like it's so different. It's so different. And of course, then he started going on of how it's going to ruin my face and how, I'm going to look awful. I'm going to look terrible. I'm ruining my beautiful face. And I'm laughing, but really it was actually pretty intense. It was actually pretty bad. We both cried. That's how bad it was. And my dad doesn't really cry that much. So yeah, I'm sorry. I'm laughing to try to hide me being upset or sad. So, but it did end up me kind of bursting out saying like, "Hey Dad, this is really selfish of you to think. This is the only thing that I can think of that will make me feel comfortable for who I am, and what you're doing is really selfish." And after that, we kind of didn't really talk much, and that definitely sucked a lot because he was the only person in our family that I actually had a really close relationship with, like a decent close relationship with. So, yep. Kermit, where's Kermit? Oh, he's in my lap. Okay. Woo. So by the summer that year, I got myself a job because mostly because it led to my mom almost kicking me out, which is, another thing. So I want to make sure, if just in case it happens again, I want to make sure I had money on me. And so, I'd be able to survive off of that just in case things got to the worst. But yeah, I paid for everything. I paid for all my therapy visits, which was each about like $250. Went through about like 6 sessions total, 7, yeah. I paid for all my endocrinologist visits, my hormones, everything, because obviously my dad wouldn't pay for it. Even paid for my transportation as well. I always got Ubers, and the town I had to go to was about roughly like 40 minutes away. So that was bad. And so that was roughly a $60 each Uber ride, so 120 total for one way. Yeah. So now we're skipping ahead to the spring of 2016. I now have the opportunity to move to San Francisco to pursue more with, my art, like illustration, graphic design, stuff like that. And it's where I'm living right now. I'm right now in my apartment in San Francisco. Hello. I noticed when I was in the process of moving, I saw a new side to my dad that I haven't really seen before. It really hit him that he wasn't going to see me as often as, me living there with him. And I feel like, though, that moving was probably the best decision I could have made for myself to help the relationship of not just with me and my dad, but also just both of my parents, like even my mom, which I felt like there was no way I could even repair that. So now since I've moved, I've been living in the Bay Area for about 3 years now. It'll be 3 years by July. Yeah, I know that for sure. Okay, yeah. So every time I flew back to Florida to visit my parents, I noticed my dad slowly opening up more and being accepting towards me, and who I am. And it started with little things. Like one time I was at the mall with him, and he makes a comment like, "Hey, want to go to the men's section? To get some pants for yourself." And just small things like that. Even when he does slip up and call me by my birth name or use the wrong pronouns and stuff, he actually immediately corrects himself now. I remember the phone call, the last couple of weeks. He was about to call me she, but then he immediately caught himself like in the middle of saying it, and he corrected himself. And it's little things like that that really mean the world to me. Because as much as I love my dad, he's also a really stubborn guy. So stuff like this is like super monumental to me. Oh my god. Oh frick. I'm not sure how to perfectly conclude this. I just wanted to make a video more about that moment that happened the last couple weeks ago, and to kind of emphasize more of how I really didn't realize how much I needed to hear that from him. Since then, though, I've been feeling really good. Like my outlook on stuff has definitely like improved more. Even my productivity has improved too. And like, hey, I made this video. That's proof, right? If there's one thing I want to talk about, though, is how I don't see that often about people who come out to their parents and kind of get stuck in this like, what do I say, like queer purgatory. I don't know how to explain it. Like you're not fully supported by your parents. If anything, they still support you as your child. You just like not just who you are, like of how you want to identify and stuff, but they also don't hate your guts and want to disown you either. Like with some coming out videos I've seen, it comes off like, oh, they either love you or they hate you. Like, oh, my parents either accepted me or I got kicked out and had to live on my own and stuff like that. I mean, regardless, that still sucks too, and hopefully it doesn't mean like I'm trying to undermine that as well. But really my point is just like a lot of things are really a lot more complex than just being A or B. Yeah. Anyways, thank you for reaching this far in my video. Congratulations, you've seen me cry. I'll really do my best to try to upload another one. I just been really busy. I've been working a lot, just like in my main job. I've just been working a lot. But I mean, the weather's been really nice recently here. It was really rainy and stuff, but now it's really nice. And it kind of, when the sun's out a little bit more, makes me want to be a little bit more productive and do videos and stuff. So Hopefully I can do that more. I actually bought some food-themed slimes, and so I definitely plan on recording those. Right now they're on a corner over there sitting on the shelf, so I definitely plan to record those. Actually, I might make that my next video. You can definitely subscribe. You don't have to ask me. It's okay. Follow my Twitter, whatever, you know. And Dad, if you're watching this, you're a cool guy. Peace out.